Hello, everybody. We're just letting people load in, but to get things rolling, we're going to begin with a short video promoting our upcoming PropTech webinar series. Having a small tech issue. Here we go.
Having tools that allow you to better understand your operations and make more data-driven decisions will give companies an edge.
If you want to make a bigger impact, then we're going to go and understand people's behavior.
If the tool works and it enables you to do your job more efficiently, it will get adopted.
With so many people being inundated by technology and information, what wave do you jump on?
I think it's really important that we, as an industry, open up and be much more collaborative about the solutions that we apply.
Now is the time to create better, build better, and be better.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Joy, Executive Director of the Urban Land Institute, or ULI Toronto. We want to welcome you all to today's program, City of Kitchener, the original Kickstarters. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that today we gather in the traditional territories of the Neutral, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people. We recognize our responsibility to serve as stewards for the land and honor the original caretakers who came before us. Our community is enriched by the enduring knowledge and deep-rooted traditions of the diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Kitchener today. And before we start, I'd also like to cover a few housekeeping items. Everybody will be automatically muted throughout the session. Closed captioning is available for this session. Maybe some delay, and it may not be 100% accurate. If you have any questions for the speakers, we're encouraging you to use the Q&A function or upvote questions you see put into the Q&A function just by pushing the thumbs up button. This session is being recorded and will be sent to you following the session. And if you want to take the conversation online, social media, please use our Twitter handle at ULI Toronto or hashtag AskGreatQuestions. I'd also like to extend my sincere appreciation to our annual sponsors. Today's event and all other ULI programming would not be possible without their support. So on behalf of ULI, I'd like to thank them for that support. And that, again, that we rely on their support for the quality programming to help drive our mission of creating and sustaining thriving communities. To all of them, we say thank you. Without further ado, we're very excited to be featuring His Worship Berry Vrbanovic, at the city of Mayor of the City of Kitchener, in this inaugural series of the Greater Golden Horseshoe Mayors. While geographically on the western edge or frontier of our fast-growing urban region, as you will hear today, Kitchener is very much in the center of our region's economic growth story. In fact, the Toronto Region Board of Trade no longer even uses the term Greater Golden Horseshoe, preferring the corridor in reference to the tech-enabled economic spine that Kitchener anchors. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to turn the program over to our moderator, Corey Bloom, Executive Director of Economic Development for the City of Kitchener. Corey has been with the city for over 20 years, initially in planning roles before transitioning to economic development, which is the perfect background to pull out of our speakers this most exciting of urban stories. So with that, Corey, over to you.
Thank you, Richard, and welcome everyone, and thank you for your interest in Kitchener's journey. I've had a front row seat over the last 20 years of what I believe is one of the most remarkable and dramatic transformations of any mid-sized city in Ontario, if not Canada. The transformation was truly a community effort, which has only fueled our ambitions of what we think we can accomplish in the next 20 years. So I'm delighted to be joined today by our esteemed mayor and 4 key community builders who are going to share our collective journey with you today. Berry Vrbanovic was first elected as mayor of the city of Kitchener in 2014, after serving as city councillor from 1994 to 2014, and was re-elected for a second term in 2018. Mayor Vrbanovic is treasurer of United Cities and Local Governments, president emeritus 2011-2012 of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and is a member of FCM's Green Municipal Fund Council. Additionally, he sits on regular standing committees of Kitchener City Council and Region of Waterloo Council, and many local boards. So before I turn it to the mayor, we wanted to first give you a bit of a window into the ethos of what makes Kitchener, Kitchener and who we are.
Dear change, we see you. You are all around us. At home, at work, on the road, at school. We know you are trying to help make us faster, better, and more efficient. We know you will happen whether we are ready or not. But guess what? Kitchener is different. We are not bystanders. We own our change. We fix, imagine, create, connect, and overcome. We've done it before, and we're ready to do it again. Why? Because our community cares. We care about our future, and we care about each other. It isn't always about the biggest or most complex solution. Sometimes the simplest idea can make the biggest impact. We use our different perspectives, pool our ideas, and shape our own future. We make it Kitchener.
Well, thank you very much, Richard, and thank you, Corey, for that kind introduction and for sharing the Dear Change video. I think it's a great way to kickstart this afternoon's presentation and a great reminder that despite all the change we've been living through this past year due to COVID-19, change is a key part of Kitchener's DNA and a big part of our Make It Kitchener story. As you can see, a lot is happening in Kitchener: a growing residential base, new businesses, and new investments in our downtown and throughout Kitchener. But this success wasn't always the case. Not too long ago, in the early 2000s, Kitchener was facing a crisis. We had a decaying downtown, many vacancies, no investors, and our manufacturing sector was getting decimated. In light of that challenge, in 2004, the City of Kitchener approved a $110 million Economic Development Investment Fund. This investment fund transformed our city by supporting the emergence and growth of the technology sector and investing in the revitalization of downtown Kitchener. Since its inception, our investment has leveraged $238 million in partner investments, which included both the federal and provincial contributions. It also kickstarted more than $2 billion in private sector investment in downtown residential and commercial construction and organizations and businesses making downtown Kitchener their location of choice. This includes the start of the discussion and vision for Waterloo Region's ION light rail transit system, the decision to locate the University of Waterloo School of Pharmacy in downtown Kitchener, the revitalization of the Tannery building through Communitech's relocation, the redevelopment and repurposing of the former Kaufman Footwear Industrial Building into residential units, and so much more, some of which I'll share in more detail later. One of the key parts of this journey has involved Momentum Developments, who were amongst the first to build residential units on a large scale in downtown Kitchener and have now brought more than 1,100 condo units to market. Their faith in downtown Kitchener paid off with their Garment Street development, which both represented the highest purchase price per square foot in our community's history at that time, and selling out in just 20 minutes, no small feat. Recognizing a need in our community, Mike is now turning his focus to affordable housing. and Mike Maxwell will share a little of his story a little later on. Earlier, I mentioned the University of Waterloo's School of Pharmacy, which opened in 2008, and who were an early partner in downtown Kitchener and a catalyst for growth in our core. We now have all three local post-secondary institutions, the University of Waterloo, Wilfrid Laurier University, and Conestoga College, with campuses in downtown Kitchener. In addition to the School of Pharmacy being the anchor institution for the University of Waterloo's Health Sciences campus, the facility is also home to the regional program of McMaster University's DeGroote School of Medicine, as well as a family health team. We're also in the early stages of the University of Waterloo's next downtown investment, the Health Innovation Arena at their Health Sciences campus. As we slowly come out of the pandemic, we recognize that the health sector has never been more important. Sandra Banks and Armin Bakurtsian will both have more to say about the importance of these investments and the health sector during their presentations. Earlier, I also mentioned Communitech, which is this area's premier technology startup hub and our region's technology and innovation enabling leader. A world-renowned organization, Communitech is at the forefront of Canada's broader innovation economy, helping technology and innovation companies start, grow, and succeed from coast to coast to coast. The University of Waterloo's Velocity program, which is an incubator for early startups, is co-located with the Communitech in the Tannery. From coaching and training entrepreneurs to helping companies make meaningful connections to talent, investors, and customers all around the world, Communitech is a valuable asset providing tremendous return on investments for our community. Saj Jamal has been a key part of Communitech's story and will share some reflections during his part of today's presentation. I would also be remiss if I didn't add that Communitech houses the City of Kitchener's Civic Innovation Lab. This lab brings new thinking to civic challenges, and Kitchener was one of the first cities in Canada to open a lab dedicated to exploring how digital technologies that coexist and improve the lives of our residents. We experiment with new ways to deliver great service and empower the city with data-informed decision-making. This allows Kitchener to constantly evolve and prepare for the city of the future. With all this discussion of technology, I did want to mention the Toronto-Waterloo Innovation Corridor, which was referenced earlier, with Waterloo Region and downtown Kitchener in particular being the western end of the corridor. So much is happening from a technology and innovation perspective between Waterloo Region and Toronto, and the provincial government recently announced a $1 billion investment in two-way all-day GO rail service on the Kitchener line. Their investment recognizes the importance of the innovation corridor to the local, provincial, and national economies. By allowing people to freely live and work anywhere along the corridor and reducing congestion on the 401 so as to increase productivity, the Toronto-Waterloo Innovation Corridor will be a key driver for economic growth now and for many decades to come. Wow, so in less than 20 years, we went from a place nobody would invest to selling out residential units in minutes to massive investments in transportation infrastructure, supporting an innovation corridor. With such a great impact over the past 20 years, we challenged our community to imagine our Kitchener of the future. And in November 2020, the City of Kitchener approved the Make It Kitchener 2.0 economic development strategy. Even before COVID, Make It Kitchener 2.0 was intended to be a vision for economic growth for the next decade in our community's development. While the pandemic delayed the adoption of the strategy, it also did focus on economic recovery. Make It Kitchener 2.0 also establishes a new up to $110 million investment fund between now and 2030 to support post-pandemic economic recovery and enable the next generation of transformational change. One key feature of Make It Kitchener 2.0 is that we are not raising property taxes to pay for this fund. This is different from our 2004 Economic Development Investment Fund, whereby we raised taxes about 1% per year over 10 years to pay for that fund. For today's investment, we leveraged three non-tax funded sources: 10 million from our Economic Development Reserve, 20 million from the reissuance of EDIF debt, and 80 million from various strategic land models. With respect to kickstarting our economic recovery coming out of the pandemic, Council has already approved $5 million to help local businesses. This includes a $1 million seed fund to directly support businesses and stimulate growth and opportunity, a minimum of $2 million to support our local service industries, and $1.5 million to partner with Communitech to deliver business recovery supports over 3 years, including extending the use of Kitchener's Innovation Lab. Looking longer term, the strategic land model will contribute $80 million, and it is otherwise the largest contributor to this investment fund. It involves leveraging the city's land assets in the following ways: bringing lands to market through a competitive process, retaining assets such as commercial residential units for future strategic use, and reinvesting land sales in future investments. This funding will support long-term investments in 5 areas of focus. First, health innovation. Second, creative industries. Third, a startup network focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Fourth, community vibrancy. And finally, fifth, affordable housing. As our first major investment from the fund, the City of Kitchener has partnered with the University of Waterloo to build a 90,000 square foot innovation arena at the Health Sciences campus in downtown Kitchener, which I mentioned earlier. By leveraging our strengths in innovation, technology, data, communications, and manufacturing, we believe we will emerge as a center for health innovation and medical technology. The way people get around will also look different in the Kitchener of the future. Over the last number of years and moving into the future, we are seeing that alternative and active modes of transportation are rising in usage, such as trains, buses, cycling, walking, electric scooters, electric unicycles, hoverboards, segways, and so much more. Going forward, our goal is to transform and adopt to these active modes of transportation by building more transportation infrastructure networks and making these networks safe, convenient, comfortable, and connected. We are looking to achieve this goal by doing the following. We have developed a set of complete street guidelines and an associated evaluation scorecard to apply to roadway construction projects. We will install a continuous and protected cycling network that connects adjacent neighborhoods to downtown Kitchener, which I will discuss in more detail. We will improve connectivity and year-round maintenance to multi-use trails and pathways, and we will develop a plan to create pedestrian-first streets throughout our downtown. As I already noted, the continuous and protected cycling network is part of the change. Kitchener's Cycling and Trails Master Plan was led by and informed through extensive community engagement, including walking and cycling workshops and a community-led steering committee. Further, our Cycling and Trails Master Plan integrates cycling routes and trails into a single master plan rooted in social, environmental, and economic priorities. The plan was designed around 3 main themes: connection, experience, and culture. One of the primary deliverables of the protected cycling network in downtown Kitchener is to design it for all ages and abilities. An implementation plan commits Kitchener to greater investments in active transportation and active living. In total, a $5.9 million investment in capital has been made to move forward with 10 kilometers of cycling facilities that will make cycling in Kitchener's downtown safe, comfortable, and convenient for all ages and abilities. This includes over 3 kilometers of fully protected cycling facilities that create a grid of east-west and north-south corridors in and through the downtown, and 6.6 kilometers of neighborhood bikeways that will connect surrounding neighborhoods into the grid. On top of that, the region of Waterloo is proving to be a great partner in active transportation by adding many kilometers of multi-use pathways and trails along parts of major regional arterial roads throughout the city of Kitchener. Thanks to the community's passion, Kitchener's Cycling and Trails Master Plan has a bold and ambitious vision with a strategic implementation plan. Most importantly, Kitchener is a community that is ready for this change. While we know that active modes of transportation are quite affordable, we also know that residents in the Kitchener of the future can't live a good quality of life and make a difference in our community if they can't afford to rent or buy a home. We need to ensure a full range of affordable housing options, from supportive housing to attainable home ownership, which means thinking differently and tackling affordability straight on. At the City of Kitchener, our ambition is to pioneer mixed income, mixed use communities through new investment models that enable the city to actively create affordable and attainable housing. In this way, residents of all socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds can flourish together. With this in mind, we successfully formed a complementary and collaborative relationship with the region of Waterloo as our area's housing service manager, and with partners including the Government of Canada, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and the SHIFT, and have led the charge for other local area municipalities to begin to do the same. In addition, the city staff team worked with a diverse advisory committee composed of the region of Waterloo and members of the public, including those with lived experience, the nonprofit community, and the development community. By taking stock of local needs, what municipal tools the city had to use, and how the city's policies could complement other initiatives, Kitchener created both our housing needs assessment and our first ever housing strategy, Housing for All, to be implemented over the next 5 years. Housing for All boldly embraces the United Nations goal that housing is a human right. But more than being a bold statement, it puts into action over 40 initiatives to help the city realize the right to housing. Kitchener leveraged what it could do best to address housing and homelessness issues by focusing on several priority areas built on equity, diversity, and inclusion principles, such as the human rights-based approach to housing and helping secure community affordable rental and affordable ownership housing amongst the other priorities on that list. We put our Housing for All strategy into action quickly through the federal government's recent Rapid Housing Initiative funding announcement for our region. City staff supported the region of Waterloo on its application to build a 30 to 50 unit women supportive housing project. This initiative involves a partnership with landowners, funding agencies, and operating agencies, including our local YWCA. As a key partner in this initiative, the City of Kitchener contributed the land valued at $2.57 million on which the facility is being constructed. And by committing to supportive housing and working with these other partners, we will significantly help these women and their families get back on their feet. Another way we are supporting affordability is through updating our planning policies. In April, Kitchener was amongst the first municipalities in the province to change our zoning to allow for tiny homes and backyard homes, now made available in the Planning Act for all our residential properties. This means that duplexes and backyard homes are now allowed in each of our low-rise residential zones, giving homeowners additional flexibility and uses for their properties. Over the past 18 months, our staff has fielded hundreds of inquiries on backyard homes and tiny houses, and we're proud to have opened up the permit process for these units on June 1st, with a number of applications already in the queue. The backyard home zoning will allow an estimated 25,000 properties to be eligible to build a unit across the city. We have heard strong enthusiasm for these units from our residents, and we're excited to see backyard homes being built in Kitchener starting this year. With these changes, Kitchener is leading in exploring innovative and affordable housing types for our residents. Looking even further ahead, as part of Make It Kitchener 2.0, we'll be exploring the ways the city can leverage its prime downtown lands, currently parking lots to advance the development of mixed income communities. But we know we can't do this alone. Affordable housing, whether rental or ownership, will take all orders of government and other community organizations working together. We know this is a journey, and the Kitchener of the future helps ensure there is housing for all. One final thought that brings together planning, affordability, and transportation. The City of Kitchener is well on our way to achieving our intensification targets, both in our downtown and citywide. ION, our region's light rail transit system, runs through the heart of the city and has done wonders to kickstart intensification. To better support public transit and growth, the city created and implemented PARTS, or Planning Around Rapid Transportation Stations. PARTS helps ensure our city's rapid transportation station areas are developed in the coming years in ways that support local transit, affordability, and add value to our community. Station area plans include various recommendations, including land use, infrastructure, pedestrian and cycling connection enhancements, public realm and streetscape improvements in surrounding areas, amongst the other recommendations on this list. This all serves to build up our rapid transit station areas. With the recent approval of backyard homes and tiny homes, more active transportation infrastructure and networks, and bringing together forward-thinking planning policies and principles around our rapid transit station areas, we envision many more of our residents being able to live an affordable lifestyle and have a high quality of life. The past 15 years have been filled with countless opportunities, and I look forward. Kitchener and the communities of Waterloo Region have a bright future together. Along with our partners, we're building a strong, inclusive, and forward-thinking community. The Kitchener of the future is becoming a reality at lightning speed. The opportunities we look forward to are practically endless, and we invite you to join us on this groundbreaking path to the future. Join us and make it Kitchener. Thank you very much. Back to you, Corey.
Thank you, Mayor Vrbanovic. As the mayor noted, all of the success, we may have kickstarted it as a city, but certainly it was a community that really rose to the occasion. So I'm delighted to introduce our panel for today, and I'll start with Saj Jamal, the Vice President of Marketing and Events at Communitech, to tell you a little about Communitech's journey. Saj?
All right. Looks like I should be there. Yeah, hi, I'm Saj. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Just wanted to share, there's my bio, so I'm the VP of Marketing Communitech, but I was somebody that was born in Mbarara, Uganda. And, with someone like Idi Amin being a dictator, choice was taken away and we had to leave. And, fast forward to today, I chose Canada. I chose Waterloo Region and I chose downtown Kitchener. And for all the reasons Barry was talking about is really the reasons why. I literally live and work in downtown Kitchener. I'm at the hub right now. My commute is a 2-minute and 38-second walk. That's why. But more than that, what is it about this place? And it's home to visionaries, barn builders, and do-gooders. At Communitech, we like to say tech for good. It's really home to risk takers willing to make big bets. I love that. We love that at Communitech. The world we live in is quite literally invented here. When you think about search was invented here, smartphones were invented here, security and e-security and cybersecurity invented here, and even the blue bin. So this whole idea of recycling was invented here. So it really kind of speaks to why it works. And there's a picture up on the screen, and in 2009, the tannery in downtown Kitchener was arguably, the place where people would say, don't go downtown Kitchener. It was a race to the bottom for manufacturing. It was an old tannery building and unarguably rundown rubble. But in true Waterloo Region fashion, we had the big idea. It was untested, it was unproven. Let's build a clubhouse for tech. Let's unpack that. What is a clubhouse for tech? What we're doing is we're making it cool to be a founder. Don't just get a job, change the world and create jobs was the mantra. So we did it by creating density. Put problem solvers together. They will start to collaborate and there will be inherent competitiveness. And it's essentially public and private, big and small, coming together in one place. And, as we're talking here with the mayor on the call, I'd like to coin, the Ghostbusters movie, Dr. Peter Venkman to the mayor, if you remember the movie. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. And I believe the response from the mayor at the time in the movie was the same as the mayor that at the time in Kitchener was, all right, I get the point. And so thanks for City of Kitchener for believing in us. Back in 2010, we rallied, got the money together, and we built this place. And this place, we like to say it's where cool shit happens. And we even put full page ads saying cool shit happens here in national newspapers when newspapers were a thing. Our goal back then was to support 100 companies, generate 2,000 new jobs, and attract $100 million in capital. And just to give you a sense of what happened, so since then, we have been averaging 2 startups a day joining the ecosystem. We've generated 16,000 new jobs in the first 5 years of the hub being open. And we attracted a peak of $800 million in capital per year in years 2018 and 2019. And then obviously, the pandemic happened. And the pandemic happened, and coincidentally, it started at the same time as our fiscal year. So, we were all concerned what was going to happen, but we like to say pandemic, no problem. Because you know what happened? In our fiscal year, starting in April of 2020, we had 348 companies start within that year. The number of new jobs created raised to 22,400 new jobs. Our member companies right now have just over 5,000 open roles that they're looking to fill currently. And our companies, our Waterloo Region companies, attracted $1.37 billion in capital in that fiscal year, blowing away our 2025 target in a pandemic year of 2020. And if we look at what's been going on with this tech and innovation hub, is our community of tech is now just at over 1,600 member companies. Those companies employ just over 1 million people. And last year, those companies had a total revenue of $340 billion. And we're just getting started. And I just want to touch back on that. Remember that 1.37 billion in capital raised for the 12 months beginning April 2020 in a pandemic year? I'm happy to report in the last 30 days, basically just count back 30 days, $1.1 billion of capital was deployed to Waterloo Region companies. Companies like Applyboard, Fair, Skywatch, Bartesian, ADA, Magnet, and a host of others. We were able to attract $1 billion in 30 days. Previous to that, in a pandemic year, we were able to attract $1 billion in 12 months. Previous to that, it took us 2.5 years to get to $1 billion. And previous to that, it took 6 years to get to $1 billion. And in typical startup speak, that's a hockey curve we like. And it's basically moving on. And we're excited. It's a tall order to keep this thing going, but we're going to continue to do our part and help founders change the world and create jobs. Thanks.
Thanks, Saj. It's certainly, Communitech has certainly been really at the foundation of much of our community's transformation. Next, I want to introduce you to Mike Maxwell, formerly a founder of Momentum Developments, now with Maxwell Building Consultants, who was really one of our first pioneers who took a risk on residential development in downtown. So please welcome Mike.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Corey. As Corey mentioned, my name is Mike Maxwell. Most of my history is in the bio, so in the interest of time, we'll just dive right into development experiences and some thoughts on housing in the city of Kitchener. During my time as a condominium developer, we were drawn to downtown Kitchener by a couple of factors. The major investment by both the city of Kitchener in the form of their EDIF, which you heard Mayor Berry speak about, and the region of Waterloo's LRT investment spoke to their joint commitment to the intensification of the core. This investment solidified what was already in our minds about a trend that we saw happening in Waterloo region. Specifically, the city of Kitchener's EDIF spoke to the determination of council, staff, and the citizenry of the city of Kitchener that Kitchener was going to be at the forefront of that trend. Kitchener was aiming to attract the very same target market that we were as condominium developers, and the city of Kitchener was making a huge investment to make sure that it succeeded. Since that time, way back when, Momentum has completed or has under construction a total of 5 high-rise projects with almost 1,200 units in downtown Kitchener alone. Flash forward a little bit, about 5 years ago, we became interested in the challenges surrounding affordable housing. Who were the providers? What were the programs? What was the available funding sources? Who were the clients? As Waterloo region itself was experiencing transformational growth and intensification, it seemed like affordability was becoming an issue, and that issue was only going to grow. As has been brought up by the real estate development industry repeatedly, decades of supply constraints have resulted in supply not being able to keep up with demand. While there are many causes of the increased demand, some contentious, the result is the same. Increased demand, challenging supply has led to increased prices and reduced affordability. And a lot has changed in the last 5 years since I first started focusing on affordable housing. While the need for affordability has increased dramatically, so has the broad support for solutions. We have seen the federal government introduce a well-funded program to develop affordable housing, and more specifically at a local level, the region of Waterloo, which has historically been the housing manager and provider, is now being supported by initiatives at the municipal level. You heard Mayor Berry speak about the substantial investments that the City of Kitchener has committed over the next few years in support of affordable housing. The multi-level support from government is unprecedented in my time involved in affordable housing. The direct investment, along with still historically low interest rates, creates the opportunity to develop affordable housing in enormous quantities. And once created, depending on the model, the housing need not be lost. It can serve the community for decades. The issue of housing affordability is incredibly complex. Land and construction costs are up dramatically. Design and approvals are taking longer and involve more parties and steps. Demand is increasing due to migration patterns and population growth. The commodification of housing is adding to additional demand and competition. Lack of skilled tradespeople, policy issues, and constricting densities, and more and more and more. There are so many issues leading to housing affordability issues that I believe there is no single comprehensive solution. Several solutions or programs are needed to continue addressing the supply issue. Many solutions need to be implemented quickly and in parallel. In the current environment, I submit, we are better off to have a partial solution that is 75% correct and have it implemented in 3 months than develop a solution that is 90% correct but isn't implemented for 3 years. This allows new programs and initiatives to be reviewed, improved, tweaked, enhanced, eliminated, or doubled down on, depending on their success. And I also contend that this community is uniquely served to use this steps. This is a community, as Saj was mentioning, built on innovation and adaptability. We can evaluate it and do stuff at the same time. This type of continuous review and improvement is necessary to correct an issue that has been decades in the making and will likely take decades to correct. Back to you, Corey.
Thanks, Mike. And we certainly appreciate your spirit of innovation within housing and now affordable housing. For those not familiar with our region, we are all about innovation, and innovation, one of our greatest leaders of innovation is the University of Waterloo. So I'm delighted to introduce Sandra Banks, the Vice President of University Relations for the University of Waterloo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name as Corey, and thank you, Corey, for that introduction. I'm delighted to join the panel and continue to tell the story of Kitchener's transformation. Let me just mention that the University of Waterloo currently has 42,000 students, a main campus in Waterloo, a School of Pharmacy in Kitchener, School of Architecture in Cambridge, and in Stratford, a School of Global Business and Digital Arts. I like to think that the university supports Kitchener's economy and vibrant community in 3 key ways: through talent, technology, and through helping to kickstart and grow new companies. With the largest co-op education program in the world, Waterloo students graduate with up to 2 years of paid work experience. And in this region, we work with almost 1,000 local companies to place students in their workplaces every 4 months. Second, our researchers work with local manufacturers and other businesses to upgrade operations with robotics, additive manufacturing, with farm businesses and autonomous vehicles, with tech and communications companies on cybersecurity, 5G, and quantum information. And I should mention, reinforcing one of the themes of our mayor's presentation, was a growing number of researchers with interest in commercializing their research in areas such as social robotics, medical imaging, biowearable electronics, and assistive technologies in such areas as osteoporosis and Alzheimer's. The third area where the university is really involved in helping the economy is to grow early stage startups through the Velocity Incubator. Currently, we see about 80 companies in the incubator, and increasingly they have a focus in areas of deep science, commercializing deep science and health technologies. A fun fact for some of you, in 2019, the Impact Center at the University of Toronto found that nearly 1 in 5 tech founders in Canada started at the University of Waterloo. So fast forward to 2021 and the question, how did we get to this place where we could announce plans to convert an old warehouse and build the innovation arena with a focus on health tech in downtown Kitchener? And it was actually the city of Kitchener that was instrumental early on in 2005 with a contribution of land and $30 million to help the university build the School of Pharmacy, which then allowed us to become a neighbor and partner with the McMaster Satellite School of Family Medicine. And we continue to partner with family medicine. We actually run one of the community's vaccination clinics at the School of Pharmacy. And it was in the middle of this century's worst pandemic that the city and the university came together to agree to proceed with this $35 million initiative. We expect Velocity to move into the innovation arena in mid-2023. I should just wrap up by saying that the mission of the innovation arena is to deliver new health solutions for practitioners and patients, taking a very different approach from traditional medical schools because we don't have one. We take a technology-first approach to solving both global and local health challenges. And a mission that will aim to deliver new companies, new jobs, and economic growth for the region and Canada. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sandra. And certainly, innovation starts at the university, but certainly our success wouldn't be possible without innovative entrepreneurs willing to see an opportunity or a challenge and are willing to take them head on. So I'm pleased to introduce our final panelist, Armin Barkutian, co-founder and CEO of Intellijoint Surgical, and also a founder of the Medical Innovation Exchange. Armin.
Thanks so much, Corey. And I'm really happy to be here and talk about our experience in Kitchener-Waterloo and really our real hope for the future about the potential that we have as a community. So my full bio is in the chat like the rest of the panelists. So I'll just really share our story about Intellijoint Surgical and ultimately the health technology ecosystem here in Kitchener-Waterloo. So as a native of Montreal, my love affair with Kitchener-Waterloo actually started in 2003 when I came to study mechatronics engineering at the University of Waterloo. By 2007, so 4 years later, I was in my final year of studies with an impending design project like all final year engineering students at the University of Waterloo. I was really fortunate that my father, who was a practicing orthopedic surgeon, he highlighted a real world problem to me that him and his colleagues really face when they're performing total joint replacement surgery. So we dedicated our final year design project to create a technology solution that helps surgeons like my dad more accurately select and place implants in the body during total joint replacement surgery. So by 2010, Intellijoint Surgical was born and its roots were firmly planted in Kitchener-Waterloo. By 2013, 3 years later, we had developed our first generation navigation system for hip replacement surgery, which was used for the first time at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. By 2016, we launched the commercial version of our product called Intellijoint Hip in the US. 2 years later, by 2018, we'd performed over 5,000 hip replacements, and we launched Intellijoint Hip in Australia and New Zealand. By 2020, we'd performed over 20,000 hip replacements. We were named Canada's fastest growing technology company on a revenue basis on Deloitte's Fast 50 list, and we had launched our second product for knee replacement called Intellijoint Knee. Today, Intellijoint Surgical is the largest medical technology company in the region with nearly 100 employees and over $50 million raised and an extremely bright future. It's funny, when you think of Kitchener and Waterloo, medical innovation is not the first thing that comes to mind. It's probably not even in the top 10 for most people. You can only imagine how true this was in 2010 when we started our business. Usually people think of Boston, they think of New York, they think of Houston, Minneapolis, and in Canada, it's mostly Toronto and Montreal. I've always believed that Kitchener-Waterloo has the potential to be a powerhouse of domestic medical technology companies. IntelliJoint's story speaks to this belief from day one. Our region is uniquely positioned, equidistant to Toronto, London, and Hamilton, giving us access to amazing clinicians and academic hospitals. And of course, the heart of our ecosystem being the University of Waterloo. IntelliJoint has proven that you can build a global medical technology company from Kitchener-Waterloo. And with the continued investments we are making in the innovation arena and a strategic focus on health innovation, our potential as a region has only gone up. I am more encouraged than ever to be a member of the domestic KW medical technology ecosystem, and I firmly believe that our sector will drive health and economic benefits for our community, for our province, and for our country. Thank you, Corey. Back over to you.
Thank you, Armin. So I've got a series of questions. I see some are coming in the chat. So for participants, please feel free to place your questions there, and I'll direct them accordingly. So Sandra, I'm gonna start with you first. Armin spoke to the potential of our region as a major health player. Can you tell us a little bit more about what will be inside the innovation arena and how you see community playing a key role?
Absolutely, happy to do that. So the innovation arena is an old warehouse. It will be amazing in 2 years. Right now it's 2 floors covering 90,000 square feet. One floor will be Velocity Incubator. On the second floor, we see all kinds of shared collaborative space for researchers, for entrepreneurs, for health practitioners, community leaders to come together to figure out the better solutions for our health challenges. We see shared instrumentation, shared wet labs, biosafety labs, the kinds of equipment that companies will need to test some of their ideas and inventions. And we see room for partners in that space, partners that want to scale their companies, knowing that Velocity is the early stage startups. In terms of our community outreach, we've already had conversations with some of the people on this panel, including Armin's Medical Innovation Exchange and Communitech, all have been broadly supportive. The Innovation Arena will also house one of the region's small business centers so that our local businesses can rub elbows with innovators and technology and apply that to their businesses regardless of the sector. And now we're just reaching out to schools of medicine, like a great partner at London and the School of Medicine and their research hospital. Our companies will need access to clinical trials. We'll need medical partners, practitioners to connect with innovators and technology. We'll continue to reach out to local primary healthcare providers in the Waterloo region because they are a fundamental piece of local health, as we've learned in the past 12 months. And right now we're also working with researchers at the university to understand what is the closest technology and research that can be commercialized in the next 2 to 5 years in the area of health tech and health innovation.
Great, thanks, Sandra. I'm going to ask a question to the mayor. Saj, after the mayor, I'm going to ask, have you ever responded to the second question? Because I know talent is a near and dear to Communitech's heart. So first, to the mayor, can you please outline details of how we intend to support creative services and creative industries in the future?
Sure, thanks a lot, Corey. And this is an area that's so important for a community that's trying to really create a vibrancy about it in terms of our ability to both attract and retain talent. When we talk about creative industries, we're looking at a variety of things that we're doing. Just some of the quick ones I can think of include partnering with post-secondary institutions to understand what investments we can make through this fund to build a globally competitive community. I think of the film and music office we created and hired Bob Egan, who's the former guitarist in Blue Rodeo, to lead it for us. We recently received a $10 million donation in terms of a building from the Manfred and Penny Conrad Foundation of the Conrad Center for the Performing Arts, which we're looking to incorporate in this strategy. And finally, the museum, which is next door to that Performing Arts Center, is looking forward later this year to be the only Canadian host of the Rolling Stones exhibit Unzipped. And there's been great interest from throughout the Toronto-Waterloo corridor and beyond on this exhibit, and we're really excited about being a partner with them on it.
Thanks, Mayor. So Shaj, there's a question about talent, and I know it's a big importance to Communitex. Do you want to speak to some of the work that Communitech has done?
Yeah, of course. And I think, important to Communitech, but more important to our companies. And so when we think about, we've been obviously talking to our companies all the time, and the number one problem is talent, the number two problem is talent, and the number three problem is talent. I mean, basically at the end of the day, getting smartest and the brightest working for the companies to help them do what they're setting out to do is the challenge. But the thing we're finding is that the smartest and the brightest are also very values driven. And so, when we start doing our ethos of tech for good and the values that we promote and nurture in our community, those are the things that tend to drive it. And an example I can give is we just ran an event last week called Ethical AI. It's time, primarily a talent play to tell people from around the world that we have companies here, right? And whether they're using ethical AI is or not, it wasn't the point. It was like, look at this community. It's different from where you are. It basically is inclusive. It thinks differently. And when we're playing on a global stage, we have a huge strength here. And I think Waterloo Region and Kitchener just embodies that. And we're going to keep driving that and building that supply chain. And obviously, the university is a huge, huge part of that. The students that come from around the world, they come to the university. How do we make sure that they stay, and continue to help the community prosper?
Great, thanks for that. So I think I'm gonna ask both Mike and Armin a big question each. So maybe I'll start with you, Mike. So you're looking to innovate in the affordable housing space. Huge need. What is the two most urgent things that we as a community could do looking forward?
Well, I would say invest now and invest big. I think the walnut's been cracked on how to actually create affordable housing now. I think it's going to take action now. The stars, for lack of a better phrase, are aligning right now. As I mentioned, lots of levels of support, lots of broad community support. So we got to kind of harness that now and do it now. Our industry moves a little bit slower than some of the other panelists in that it takes us a couple of years to get through approvals, which I only say that tongue in cheek because I know an overnight success in the tech world, I think, is a decade, I think now. But it still takes a couple of years from concept to people moving in on affordable housing or any housing. So that's one thing. And that leverages, the multi-year commitments we've seen from the city of Kitchener and the region. So we have to act now before the stars get out of alignment. Secondly, and this is a little bit different for the municipalities than for the private sector, but getting involved in it and willing to accept risk is key here. Development is innately risky. There's risk associated with real estate development. I think our community at large is comfortable with risk, as is evident through its entrepreneurial kind of spirits and roots. But there's great ideas out there. There's new built forms, there's new partnerships, there's new technologies, some being developed right here in Waterloo Region that can lead to faster and cheaper housing. So some of them just need a Kickstarter to demonstrate their product. And I think we can be a demonstration lab for some of those ideas as well. So there's a good opportunity for us to invest in some of those new ideas directly from the region.
That's great. And Armin, similar question. I mean, a different field of focus, but I think you still have the same ambition. And you talked about medical technology innovation and the potential of our ecosystem. So where do you think our biggest opportunities lie, and maybe what are the big challenges we have to overcome?
Sure. Yeah. Great question, Corey. I really think our opportunity is in supporting our scale ups. So, really over the years, our region has made really smart bets. That's really spurred the creation of startups. That ecosystem we have here is very strong. So between the University of Waterloo, Velocity, the Accelerator Center, and of course, Communitech, generally companies have the support that they need. Of course, there's an opportunity to make that better when it comes to medical technology companies. We're unique, our needs are unique, and we require unique support. So I'm really happy to see the continued investment that we're making in supporting new startups in the medical space through Velocity and the innovation arena. I think that's really great. I really do believe, though, that the return that we get on these investments are really realized once the companies really graduate or transition from startup to scale up. So they're really graduating or transitioning from being an R&D focused organization to being a sales focused organization that's generating revenue. And really that's our biggest opportunity, is to retain our startups. We're investing so heavily in them, and we really need to support them and keep them here as they scale. If we lose our startups to other regions, of course, the returns on these investments will go with them. So to help fill this gap in the medical technology space, IntelliJoint spearheaded the creation of the Medical Innovation Exchange, or MIX, in Kitchener. It's been mentioned a few times on the call today. MIX is actually Canada's first industry-led hub that's focused on supporting domestic medical startups successfully transition into revenue-generating scale-up companies. So MIX is currently a 30,000 square foot facility. It's on Wellington Street in Kitchener, and we house 6 of the most promising scaling medical technology companies in the region. We really have the ability to create our own Boston or Minneapolis, I believe. I believe it requires bold thinking that prioritizes really the retention and the support of our domestic medical technology sector, and really the courage to look past the short-sighted opportunities that foreign multinationals present in their quest to suck up our local talent. It is a challenge. I agree with Saj 100% that there's talent wars happening right now, and the introduction of foreign multinationals into our ecosystems makes that challenge that much more significant. So really investing and retaining our startups, supporting them into scale up, and having them generate revenue, bring that revenue into Canada, pay tax on it, employ people, and really protect the IP and commercialize that IP to generate revenue.
Great. I think you've summed up through MIX really what our community is all about. Is it's not waiting for solutions to arise, but come together as community and take on big challenges and be willing to take the risk to do that. So being mindful of time, I want to give the last question to the mayor. So there's a question asked about, I know it's very near and dear to you, about transit and connection into Toronto. So I'll let you speak to that and wrap us up.
Sure, just very quickly, because we did talk about it briefly. Certainly, two-way all-day go has been a priority for many of the businesses, the municipalities, both on this end of the corridor and throughout between here and Toronto. And I want to acknowledge Mayor John Tory, who's been a big proponent from when we launched starting to talk about the Toronto-Waterloo corridor. Recently, the provincial government announced $1 billion towards making this happen. And we're looking forward to seeing more frequent service and faster service in the years ahead. And I think to wrap things up, Corey, I really just want to take this opportunity to thank the Urban Land Institute and their team for the opportunity to join all of you today for this series. Our amazing City of Kitchener team, who's been leading this and kickstarting Kitchener over the past 20 years, to Corey, Saj, Mike, Sandra, and Armin for joining me today, and all of you for taking some time out of your valuable day to learn about how we kickstarted our community. Today, I spoke a lot about Make It Kitchener, our new economic development strategy. Make It Kitchener is more than a strategy, though. It's a community ethos. It's a simple premise that if you want to make a difference in the world, Kitchener is the place to do it, because this community will help. Our advantage is we make change together. We always have, and we always will. Thursday will mark 15 months since COVID-19 was declared an emergency locally. We've faced difficult times in the past, and we've come out stronger together. We've overcome major challenges before, and we'll do it again. We are a resilient, caring community with a relentless pursuit of building a better city and a better world together with all of you. Let's make that change together. Join us and make it Kitchener. Thank you very much.
Make it Kitchener. That was fantastic. Well done, everybody. Great, great panel. Thank you, Mayor Vrbanovic, to cap it off. I'm going to wrap it up because we always wrap on time. Upcoming programs will be briefly put on the screen, but I also wanted to let our audience know that the window to join our committees is fast coming to a close on June 30th next week. So please, the link will be put into the chat room. But if you're interested in joining ULI more than as a member, but actually getting involved in our committees, this is the moment to do so. I would ask our panel to hang on. We're going to take a kind of a photo. But to our audience, thank you again for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. That was a great program. So have a good afternoon. And panelists, hang on. I guess everybody should come back on camera. And Alex, or you tell us what you need us to do, and we'll be real quick because we got to let people. It's 101.
Sure.
Are we good?
Just putting everybody into the speaker